Flora stood beside her mother with the kind of quiet stillness that no child should ever have to learn. At her age, she should have been tugging on Marissa's hand, pointing at pastries, asking for sweets with the carefree excitement every child deserves. But life had taught her early which dreams she wasn't allowed to voice. Her small fingers clung gently to her mother's sleeve, not out of fear, but out of understanding, an understanding far too mature for someone so young. When her eyes drifted toward the strawberry-topped cake behind the glass, she didn't whisper a request or give even the smallest hint of desire. She simply looked, then looked away, as if the simple act of wanting something was wrong. That quiet restraint, that fading innocence, is what softened every heart in the room. Because sometimes, the silence of a child speaks louder than any words ever could. Marissa's story begins long before she steps into that bakery, but in that moment, every struggle she has endured sits quietly on her shoulders. Her clothes carry the dust of the streets, and her eyes hold the exhaustion of a woman who has tried every possible way to keep her daughter fed. She isn't there to buy anything, she already knows she can't. She's simply searching for the kind of leftovers most people throw away without a second thought. But behind her soft voice lies a truth that breaks the heart. She hasn't eaten since yesterday, and Flora's last meal was a single apple they split between them. Still, she stands there, trying to appear stronger than she feels, because a mother's hope doesn't die easily. Even in hunger, even in shame, she believes that maybe someone will show a little kindness today. And that belief becomes the spark that changes everything. When Marissa finally reached for the bag, her hands trembled as if she couldn't believe something this simple, this human, was meant for her. The moment the weight of the food settled in her grip, something inside her cracked, months of fear, hunger, and exhaustion spilling through her tears. Flora's face lit up with a quiet joy, not the wild excitement of a spoiled child, but the soft relief of someone who has been waiting too long to feel seen. Roland, watching from a small distance, felt something shift in him too, something warm and unfamiliar after years of numbness. He didn't wait for applause or gratitude, he just offered her a gentle nod, the kind that says, "You matter," even if the world has forgotten to show it. And as he stepped outside into the sunlight, it felt as though kindness itself had breathed life back into all three of them. Roland didn't approach the counter with grand gestures or dramatic intentions. He moved quietly, almost gently, as if he didn't want to disturb the fragile moment unfolding in front of him. Without introducing himself or hinting at his wealth, he asked the staff to pack the freshest cake on display, the very one Flora had looked at with silent longing. Then he added warm meals, pastries, sandwiches, anything that could bring life back into two faces that had forgotten what comfort felt like. Marissa watched in confusion, unsure why a stranger was ordering so much food. She braced herself, expecting a lecture or a judgment disguised as charity. But Roland said nothing of the sort. He simply had the bag handed to her, no conditions, no questions, no spotlight. It wasn't pity he offered, it was dignity. And sometimes, dignity is the kindest gift a person can receive. Roland had entered the bakery that afternoon simply looking for a quiet moment, a small escape from the noise of the world and the heaviness he carried inside. He wasn't there to witness anyone's struggle, yet the second he heard Marissa's trembling voice, something deep within him stirred. It wasn't just sympathy, it was recognition. Her exhaustion, her fear, the quiet strength she used to hold herself together, all of it reminded him of wounds he had spent years trying to bury. Losing his wife and daughter had sealed his heart behind walls no amount of wealth could break. But seeing Flora hiding behind her mother's sleeve, seeing the hope in her eyes flicker and fade, it reached a part of him he thought was gone forever. It wasn't their poverty that moved him, it was their pain, a pain he knew too well. And in that moment, his humanity finally stepped forward. The moment Marissa asked for expired cake, the entire atmosphere inside the bakery shifted. The employees weren't unkind people, they were simply caught between their instincts and their instructions. Their boss had strict rules, no exceptions, and they knew breaking them could cost them their jobs. So they exchanged hesitant glances, torn between wanting to help and fearing the consequences. It wasn't judgment that held them back, it was uncertainty, the kind that makes people freeze when compassion and caution collide. And in that pause, Marissa felt the weight of every unspoken assumption pressing on her, as if the room itself was questioning her worth. Her cheeks warmed with embarrassment, and she wondered if she should leave before the silence became unbearable. But hunger keeps people standing in places where pride tries to pull them away. And in that fragile moment of hesitation, fate quietly prepared to shift the entire scene.